Howdy y'all! So a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks since I introduced the concept for my first indie game. In that naval combat game, I've now introduced the 4 main units that are going to be available and part of the boarding combat action. I've set up the basic AI that's needed for them to be able to choose when to attack and when to defend and how to go about all their various actions. And I've tried and abandoned multiple different ways of handling buoyancy for the ships. Of course, I've also continued work on my Federation and Empire port. I've added support for multi-systems hexes now, so being able to actually set up all the capitals and display all the different informations about all the different solar systems and all the different sites within that, and being able to load and understand all the basic details about the capitals. Unfortunately, I also hit a major setback in the program, which I'll tell you more about in a minute. Of course, in my real life, I've also been dealing with the fact that there was a major snowstorm here in Dallas while I was out doing tent camping for the past 2 weekends with my daughters, and my company has decided to do a return to office, which really means I've only actually had weeknights to work on the game, work on both of these games for the past 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm still pretty excited about the progress I've made, so let's go ahead and jump into it and I'll show you what's gotten done. Okay, so like I said, I created 4 different character types that will be used in the boarding combat. The first is just a basic deckhand type guy who has a dagger. Second is some type of swordsman, so a little bit more advanced. A Marine who has his musket, and then the officer who is equipped with both a pistol and a sword. All of them have got a variety of different actions that they can do, ranging from, obviously just the basic standing there, all the different types of walking around, but, I did put in a variety of different ways for them to take hits or attacks, and then they all have a variety of different methods to attack that they can use depending on, what the current situation is. So this guy you can see here for the dagger, he's got a couple of light attacks, he's got a couple of hard attacks. Likewise, our swordsman here has a couple of different things that he can do, from, very heavy attacks to, more light type of quick attacks. Of course, again, they'll kind of choose which one they use depending on where they are at in relation to their enemy. Our musket man, in addition to being able to fire his musket, also has the ability to hit somebody with the rifle. And then, of course, our officer has the ability to both attack with his sword. So his sword would be in his hand at this point. I just didn't activate it. Or he can also draw out his pistol and fire that as well. So let's just take a quick look at how that works in general. So if I drag a couple of my dagger guys on here for each of the teams, a red team and a blue team, hit play. They will draw their daggers and proceed to attack each other. And you see they have different dodge actions. We saw that guy try to kick. They've got, like I said, a couple of different things that they can do depending on the situation. There's some randomness, obviously, to how they decide which attack they choose to do. Same thing in addition to dagger. So if we take let's just throw a couple swordsmen into the mix as well. Now I can see they behave the same, and that they will draw their swords and all charge in on each other. And looks like blue made very short work of red this time. Lastly, let's go ahead and we will throw in an officer in on both sides, and we'll go ahead and, just for the interest of time here, we'll go ahead and throw some musketmen in at the same time. And so here I should see that the officers will draw their pistol and shoot once, and then proceed to attack with their swords. The musketmen will line up shots and just try to take them from where they are. There is a couple of little issues with some of the alignment on the rifles I keep saying rifles on their muskets that I need to get worked out. Now you'll note there too, though, we'll do hand-to-hand. The musketmen will do hand-to-hand combat if they get too close. And put it all together, you end up getting something that looks like this. Now, right now, they're kind of all they're not player controlled. They all just act in their own AI, and so I attempt to just slaughter everybody on the other side. My next steps is really to make sure that the player units are actually controlled by the player, so they can, decide where they want them moving and attacking. The other thing you may have noticed is that the musketmen's behavior seems to be a little bit odd once they got put on the ship. That they seem to prefer melee combat instead of firing their muskets. So that's definitely something that I want to take a look at as well. And then the last thing for this boarding combat is I don't actually have their jump animations working yet. So you'll probably notice as they move back and forth between ships right now, they just kind of glide. So I've got to obviously fix that as well. One other thing you may have noticed is that I had mentioned in the last video I wanted to get the buoyancy effects working for the ships, and while that's more important for the main naval combat, I wanted it here as well. I did run into some interesting issues with that, as you can see here. For some unknown reason, or unknown to me right now reason, when the buoyancy was turned on, it works just fine normally, but if I put any units on the ship, it gets a little bit wonky, and we end up with something going all crazy, and you can see that the ships just kind of get pushed around and do all kinds of weird things as those units move around. So definitely something that I need to figure out and come back to, but it wasn't super important for today, so that's why I decided to go ahead and get this video out, even though I haven't figured out how to fix that just yet. Hey, just a quick reminder, I do have that Ko-Fi page set up, so if you wanted to throw a few bucks my way to keep the Pepsi flowing while I work on this game, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, so switching over to Federation and Empire, like I mentioned, I've added support now for the multi-system hexes. So when you actually look at, like one of these capital hexes, I can see, for one, it's added in the units that are part of the capital hex. You'll see that it says multi-system hex. It's got a starbase. It has a shipyard. There's now a button here for system details, and if I click that, I can see all the different systems that make up this multi-system. So here, you've got, at the Lyran homeworld anyway, you've got 4 different solar systems with a mix of major and minor planets, which have their either brigades or regiments on them. And then, at the capital itself, it's got 2 brigades, it's got a starbase, and then it has the shipyard. If you look at, let's say, the Hydran capital instead, you can see that, it only has 3 systems. Again, the one that's the capital's got a starbase and a shipyard, and it's multiple brigades, whereas, the other planets only have their brigade or regiment. Of course, the Klingons are a little bit different. In the sense that they've got multiple star bases orbiting in their capital. So if I look at that system details, I can see that there's a star base here, and a star base here, and a star base here. So all those are set up, and I guess since I've looked at them all, we might as well go ahead and look at the Kzinti one as well. Same details with the Kzinti. I can see where their shipyard is. Again, the capital's got the multiple brigades and its star base. Of course, it'll also let you enhance the defenses in these multi-systems, so I've got the ability to still, upgrade the planetary defenses. I can see, at my capital hex, I can see all the different planets that make up that capital. So, like, here, we'll go crazy. We'll self-generate a planetary defense unit on every single one of the Klingon planets, or at least their home, so I can see how I'm building that. Of course, the spending gets calculated the way it's supposed to, and then it moves on. And if I actually look at that system now, I'll be able to see, of course, that there's all these PDUs that are in the process of getting set up. And then if we advance around to the start of next turn, so here I am, I'm at the start of the coalition turn 2, and I'll quickly get forward into the operational move phase so that we can have a clean screen to look at. So just like before, I can see here at 1407 that I did add an additional battalion to that planet. But now if I look in my capital system, I can see that, yep, you know, a battalion has been added to those 2 brigades, a battalion's been added to that brigade, and then all these regiments became groups. So yeah, I'm working through capital system assault right now, and the upgrading of bases and multi-system hexes. I'll do a more full devlog update on Federation Empire here real soon, but I just wanted to give you an update that I am in fact still working on this. I did mention just a minute ago though that I had a major setback in the program, so let's talk about that. And it all has to do with this horrible message that's popped up on the screen right now. When I recently opened the project, apparently a lot of the underlying networking libraries that I'm using for multiplayer have all been deprecated. I mean, the good news is they've been replaced by other libraries, so it's not, you know, necessarily the end of the world, but it is going to be some work to swap them out. I did do a good job, well, I think I've done a good job anyway, of separating all that code out, so it shouldn't be a monumental undertaking to swap it all out, but it's just some extra work that I hadn't planned on. I'm toying around with the idea of not worrying about it because it won't actually go away until Unity 7 comes out, which is, you know, probably going to be sometime in 2026. And I better be long done with this before that happens. I'm just trying to decide if it's worth the time to switch out now. Awesome. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'd love it if you gave this video a like. It would definitely help the channel out. And of course, if you're not subscribed, I'd love it if you would subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.